good afternoon, good evening, good night to everybody that's listening, whatever time of day it might be for you. It's morning here for me today, at this moment. And I haven't sat and done one of these for a little while. Life just got busy with my daughter starting middle school and me starting my semester again, along with working, and just had me thinking about how life and time can easily get away from us and pull us away from sometimes the things that help us get through those moments the most. So for me, the times that I am busiest and pulled in the most directions are the very times that I need to sit and tap in and talk with spirit, have a chat with my guides and angels and loved ones, my family of light. And so I'm feeling today like just kind of foggy and out of touch and just a little bit kind of like lost, overwhelmed, those kinds of things, just from various stuff going on in my everyday life. And so I thought it would be helpful to just sit anyway and ask Spirit what they would like to say today. Just kind of going in with an open mind, and if nothing comes through, nothing comes through. But if it does, then hopefully it'll be helpful, not only to me, but whoever's listening, because I think we can all relate to sometimes just feeling disconnected, or knowing that we've sort of let that connection go because we've gotten distracted by other things that we are trying to sort of direct and control, the practical things in our life, forgetting often that we can expand and reach out and invite in guidance, that we can let go of resistance, that we can be helped and led and embraced in these times if we're just willing to trust, to let go, to have some faith that we are where we're meant to be, and that sometimes there just isn't something that we have to figure out, even though it feels like there is. That sometimes just being in the moment will bring the answers. Sometimes just sitting in trust will reveal where we are and where we should go next, versus trying to figure it out with logic and planning and searching and researching. So let's just all take a deep breath around that, because I think that we all know what it's like to feel like we're sort of alone. We're these lone creatures trying to figure out our way through our lives. Let's just acknowledge that by taking a deep breath, a deep, loving breath for ourselves and for one another. And then even if you can't feel it right now, just inviting the understanding that we are not ever alone. And just maybe kind of gently sending out our spiritual tendrils, our little sweet seekers that we can send out from our own energy, from our own hearts, reaching out to those others that are struggling like we are. Just sort of I just imagine us just kind of like sending out these little feelers and just sort of giving each other a gentle pet, like you're petting a sweet little cat or a dog, and just soothing one another, reminding ourselves that we're not alone, and just allowing that to come back to you as well. Just hearing everybody else that we're connected to in the universe, and all the creatures, just all saying, I'm here. We're all here together. And also feeling that energy rising up from the earth. Feeling her say, I'm here. You're not alone. And also the energies from the spirit realm, the heavens, whatever we want to call it. The Akash. Is feeling that love pouring down. Feeling those connections reopen and blossom. Just lighting up those dark places inside of our hearts, our souls, that had gotten disconnected or turned off. Just feeling how good it is to bathe in that illumination and that reminder of being held and being loved and being connected. And so, I'm not sure if this is what Spirit will speak about, but I can say what's on my mind primarily today is just the struggle many of us have with anxiety, fear. I have a daughter who struggles with anxiety, and I find it really difficult to be able to be with her in it without feeling this pressure to try to fix it or find a solution. And then I find my own anxiety triggered by that responsibility that I've created for myself as a mother. And of course that creates all kinds of other nasty emotions. Not that I should label emotions as nasty, because they all have purpose, but sometimes it just feels nasty. And so I just wanted to mention that as that's a place of struggle for me right now. So I'm curious, just because that is what is on my mind, if I tap in with Spirit today, if any of that will come through. It could be something totally different that is a message for everybody listening that has nothing to do with that, but I just wanted to kind of mention that in case anybody else has that struggle as well. So I'm just going to be quiet for a couple minutes here and just asking you to invite openness. If you have something on your heart that you want to hold forward while I'm sitting in silence, please do that, and invite, healing and guidance for yourself. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing is that there's a very strong chorus of feminine energy. And it's like a group speaking, which often happens to me, and they're telling me they're the mothers. And so what I'm seeing is mothers, representations of mothers from many different cultures and many different time periods. So seeing mothers from, almost like the prehistoric era, a mother representing that. Seeing a mother who looks almost like she could be like Mesopotamia. Seeing a mother who looks more like in kind of like robes, almost like Roman or Greek or something like that. Seeing that image we imagine that looks sort of like Mother Mary. Seeing like a warrior mother with dark skin and very strong and tall and has a spear with her. And then seeing what I imagine to be a more modern mother who looks like us as far as her dress and hairstyle and things like that. So, and I see there's just like, crowds of mothers behind them. So these have just sort of stepped forward as examples. But it's really just that wise mother energy showing herself through these different women, because she runs through all of us. And what she wants to talk about right now is guilt. And I'm feeling emotional about it. I just felt like just kind of like a sadness and a bit of an anger kind of rising. And she's saying that that's what she feels when she looks upon all these mothers that carry this heavy guilt, and carry this idea of responsibility for not only their children and their families, but the world. Throughout history, she's saying women have somehow transformed their compassion, their natural gift of compassion and empathy, which is like the golden chalice of femininity, and it doesn't, I'm saying women, and I understand that she wants me to mention, yes, I understand, she understands that gender is fluid and not viewed, it's viewed differently in different cultures, and right now it's not viewed the same way it was thousands of years ago and things like that. But so she's talking about women as child bearers, women as the creators of life in this way, and that it's okay that, we can't encompass everybody and with all the words. So she's saying this is a message for women, and not to say that that's to cut out men who can also be compassionate in those things. I don't know why she wanted to get that out of the way. I mean, perhaps there's somebody listening who needed to hear that, but so she's saying that women have taken this golden chalice, this beautiful gift that they have of holding compassion and empathy, and holding people in that healing space of compassion and empathy, almost like women become the chalice, this healing chalice. But so many of us have taken it and flipped that compassion and turned it into this heavy, heavy responsibility for all of the difficult things that happen in the world, with those close to them, with their loved ones. And that we have taken this beautiful gift and turned it into a burden sometimes. And then, in order to alleviate ourselves from some of the guilt, we as women, as a culture of women, have also then sometimes to take some of that burden off of ourselves and the self-blame, and have turned it against other women, pointing fingers. And she's showing me like spears with our words, pointing fingers at the way that other women have chosen to live, have chosen to mother, especially mother. And so she's talking about how there has to be a healing among women, especially in our modern day culture, where we stop sending out accusations and criticism and judgment of one another, especially when it comes to raising families, caring for children. And she's saying the way that has to start is by turning the compassion onto ourselves, by inviting ourselves to sit within our own healing chalice. And it really stems from the guilt, because if we can have the compassion and empathy, if we can sit in that potential of compassion and empathy that each one of us has in our hearts just by the very nature of being a woman, because we have been given that gift through thousands and thousands and thousands of years since womankind began. We all have that there. If we can, first of all, begin to know that that is there, this endless source of compassion that comes not from us, but from the strength of all the women who have ever lived, and from the Great Mother. If we can know that that compassion is always there for us to reach into like an endless river of nourishment, then we won't feel so drained. Because that compassion and empathy doesn't just have to come from our own hearts, it comes from the heart of the Great Mother. And so it can never run out. Sometimes we become overwhelmed by our empathy and compassion because we feel it and immediately feel a sense of responsibility to fix something. And then guilt if we don't know how or we can't in that moment. And then the guilt turns into anger, and then the anger turns into judgment of ourselves and others. So it's like this waterfall. They're showing me this succession or a snowball, an avalanche, where it starts little and then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until it crashes. And so she's saying, the Great Mother is saying that first we need to remember to bathe regularly in that space of the Great Mother's compassion and love and empathy. First, we must take care of ourselves. It's like putting on our own oxygen mask before we help another. So she's saying, first, you must bathe in that river of the Great Mother's love. You must fill up your chalice with that. Invite your own heart to be healed within your own chalice of love and compassion. It must start with you. And if you can fill yourself up in that way, if you can turn that compassion inward to yourself, then first of all, you won't feel that heavy sense of responsibility because, number one, you will always be full of that love and compassion from the Great Mother to you. So therefore you can give more easily without feeling burdened. But also you will know that it isn't your responsibility alone to take care of another or take care of your child, take care of your family, take care of the world. It is the Great Mother's loving responsibility, and she exists for that. And all we need to do is be her hands, be her eyes, be her heart, be her appendages, be part of her one body, be a cell in the body of the Great Mother, contributing in that way. But it doesn't have to come from you alone, because if you feel like it needs to come from you alone, then you will feel isolated, you will feel burdened, you will feel guilt, because it's impossible to live up to that standard you've set from yourself if you're trying to take care of everyone from just your own source. So if we continually dip back to the river, to this beautiful healing river of the Great Mother, then we will continually be nourished and fed and healed. We will continually be able to be her, part of her giving a body, part of her appendages, part of her, her action in the world, from a place of fullness, from a place of flow, versus from a place of isolation and control. And she's saying that this is very hard especially when caring for your own children, or your own families or your own loved ones that are close to you, even if you don't have children, it's very hard to not take on that responsibility. Number one, because it makes us feel important. So there's, an ego fighting there, trying to say, like, no, this is my responsibility. This is my family. This is what I've created in this life. This is, this is what defines me. And also just because when you love something so much, it's very hard not to want to control the outcome for that thing that you love. And so she's just reminding us, she says, I'm reminding you very gently because it is such a tender place, that your children, your family, those you care for most, your animals, whatever it might be, they are not yours. They belong to the Great Mother. They belong to the universe. You have the honor of serving them in this lifetime, but they don't belong to you. You are there to help steward. You are there to help serve, but you are not, they don't belong to you, and they are not yours to direct or to fix or to solve. And if we can let that go, then she says by logic, the guilt will let go as well. Because how can you feel guilty about something that is not your responsibility? And that's a hard thing to do for many of us. But she's saying, if you show up and you have the bravery to trust this flow, if you have the bravery to put yourself first as far as receiving this Great Mother's love from this endless river of compassion, if you have the bravery to put yourself in there and continually receive and allow yourself to be washed clean, allow it to take the things away that you have this tight hold on, allow yourself to let go of the control. If you can be that brave, that's an act of bravery, then you will see how you are to serve your family, your children, your loved ones in a new way, in a new light, from a place of love and compassion that's so much greater than you were able to achieve on your own. And when you let go of that burden of responsibility, of personal responsibility, there is, soul, universal responsibility to take care of one another, but that's very different. That's a unified responsibility. That's different than a personal responsibility that we've created. We've made this construct, this egocentric construct of personal responsibility. And of course, she's saying, things are necessary, like feeding our families and caring for them on a physical level, of course. And we all know that. That's not what she's speaking about. She's speaking about being responsible for, their every happiness, for their every choice, for every outcome of their life, and those things. That when we can let go of that and invite them then into that universal flow of love, invite them to bathe in the river, invite them to be healed in this beautiful chalice of Mother, then this flow will continue to cascade down through the generations, because they will know how to be in that flow, and they will pass it on to their children and their children's children. And they will be able to live without guilt that we have struggled with. They will be able to love without the guilt we have struggled with. And because they won't have that burden of personal responsibility and guilt, they will not judge. They will not project out and judge other mothers. the way that we sometimes do. But the healing can start with you, and the healing can be expressed back through generations in time, through ancestry, and it can be expressed forward, so we can heal across millennia by remembering to make this beautiful connection with the mother. And so to do this, she wants us to just first of all hold our hearts and feel her telling us that we deserve this love, that by our very nature of being women on this planet, it is our birthright, our soul right to connect to this mother river, to collect her healing water in the golden chalice that each of us holds, and to invite ourselves and whoever we want to wash them with love in this holy water. And when we find ourselves struggling and trying to control outcomes, feeling guilty and responsible as a little isolated person for those around us and for ourselves, to remember to go back to the river and be reminded that there's an infinite source of love and compassion that is more true than the tiny pool of it inside of us. Because it will eventually dry out if we don't remember to open and connect to the original source of it all, to love, to God, to Goddess. And so when you feel alone, when you feel guilty, when you feel overwhelmed by mothering in whatever way you do it, just remember to bathe in the river and allow the mother's love to flow over you and through you. Thank you, mothers. Thank you, great mothers, for this message. Thank you, mothers who are listening. I love you. Namaste. Amen.